Hey guys, tonight I want to share something that's been stuck with me for years. I've tried ignoring it, laughing it off, even pretending it never happened, but it always finds its way back. Don't worry, it won't follow you into your dreams, less it already has. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it there right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. I work night shift in a nursing home. Small town, underfunded, overworked. You know the drill. The building's old like, born during the Great Depression old. Smells like boiled vegetables, industrial cleaner, and something else I could never quite name. Not rot, not mildew, just tiredness. Like the walls themselves were worn out. My first night was quiet, which should have been a blessing. But there's a kind of quiet in nursing homes that isn't peaceful. It's tense. Like the silence after you shout into a cave and wait for an echo that never comes. I was stationed at the East Wing that night, 12 rooms, 8 occupied. Mostly dementia cases, a couple of post-op recoveries, one terminal patient they didn't expect to last the week. I was given a laminated checklist, a flashlight with dying batteries, and the usual line. Nothing ever really happens here. You'll get used to the noises. Right? Noises. It started with the lights. There are motion sensor lights in the hallway, new tech awkwardly slapped onto old bones. You walk by, they flicker on. Simple enough. But 10 minutes into my shift, while I was restocking gloves and bed pads, I saw it. Click, the hallway behind me lit up. No footsteps. No sound. No reason. I turned, expecting to see one of the residents shuffling out for a bathroom trip. Nada, just empty floor. Freshly waxed and too quiet. Probably a glitch, I mumbled to myself. My voice sounded thin in the space, like it didn't quite belong there. I went back to organizing the supply closet. Then it happened again. Click, same lights, same hallway. I peeked out and stood still. Waited, counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Nothing. But the lights were definitely reacting to something. I stepped into the hall, click on every light behind me, started turning off, sequentially, as if something was following me, or worse, pacing behind me. You ever feel your spine itch? Like your nervous system knows more than your eyes? I had that. Full blast. To test it, I walked down the corridor slowly. Lights blinked on in front of me, as expected. But when I paused, the lights behind me didn't just stay on, they flickered. Like they were trying to decide whether something was there or not. I kept telling myself, it's old wiring. Sensors misfiring. Rats, maybe. Big rats. Radioactive raccoons. Anything but ghosts. Then came the first real weird part. Room 206. An empty room. Not just unoccupied, cleared out. No bed, no linen, no equipment. Used to be a storage space before they sealed it off. Except the door was open. Wide. I stared at it from halfway down the corridor. I hadn't walked past it. I hadn't even touched that section yet. But there it was, door yawning open like a mouth in mid-scream. Shadows pooling inside like ink. I should have closed it. That's what they tell us. Keep unused rooms shut. But I didn't. I just stood there, stomach tightening like a winch. And then, from inside that room, I swear I heard the floor creak. Not loud, just enough to whisper, "You're not alone." I backed away slowly. I don't know if it was fear or instinct or sheer survival mode stupidity, but I didn't turn my back on it. I walked backward until I hit the nurse's station counter. The intercom crackled, once dead static, like someone had tapped the mic and forgotten to say anything. Then it went quiet again. I don't remember breathing for at least 2 minutes. Later that night, when I asked the day nurse about room 26, she squinted like I'd said something offensive. That one, huh, should be locked. I haven't had the key for months. Was it ever a patient's room? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She shrugged. Before my time, might have been. One of the old-timers said we had someone dangerous there back in the 90s. Something about him talking to someone no one else could see. She smiled like she was joking, but there was something about her eyes wide, a little too still, that told me she wasn't. I laughed, too hard, too fake. Cool, I said. Love a good ghost story on my first night. She didn't laugh back. And the next night, that door was open again. Even though I had locked it. Even though there's no key. Even though I hadn't told anyone. Click the light in front of room 206 just turned on again, and no one's there. I tried telling myself it was a mistake, that maybe I hadn't locked it after all. Maybe the latch was loose. Maybe, that's. Word was doing a lot of heavy lifting lately. Second night in, I came in early on purpose. Wanted to walk the halls while it was still dusk, while everything still looked mostly normal. By the time the overnight shift officially started, I'd already done a sweep. Room 206 was shut tight. I even wedged one of the doorstops under it. Took a photo with my phone, time-stamped, just in case I needed to prove to myself I wasn't spiraling. The residents were quiet that evening, almost too quiet. Normally, there's some shuffling, maybe a confused shout or two, someone buzzing for help to go to the bathroom even if they already went 10 minutes ago. But this time, they were just waiting. I remember walking past room 211, Mr. Hartman's room. He's got advanced dementia. Sweet guy. Loves talking about trains that don't exist anymore and women he probably never married. His eyes are clouded, and sometimes he forgets he's still alive. But that night, he was sharper than I'd ever seen him. I passed by and he looked straight at me, crystal clear focus. He pointed toward the corner of his room where the curtains were drawn. "He's already inside," he whispered. I paused. "Who's he, Mr. Hartman?" He looked back at me like I was the crazy one. "The man you keep ignoring." I peeked toward the corner. Nothing but shadows, fabric, and a wall-mounted TV playing static. I forced a laugh. "Okay, well, let me know if he starts paying rent." Mr. Hartman didn't laugh. He turned his head, slow as syrup, and said, "He doesn't need to. He already owns this place." I didn't like how that sentence made my stomach clench, like I'd swallowed a chunk of ice. I moved on, trying to shake it off. This is what they warned me about, right? Dementia patients say strange things. It doesn't mean anything. Except, it wasn't just Hartman. Room 208. Mrs. Alvarez barely speaks English, but she always smiles. Except tonight, she was facing the wall, whispering rapid Spanish to no one. I didn't catch most of it, but I did catch one phrase she kept repeating. "No Lemires, a loss, Hoyos." Don't look into his eyes. I checked the hallway, still empty. I made it back to the nurse's station and poured myself a cup of coffee, trying not to look over my shoulder every few seconds. The building creaked like it always did. Old plumbing, settling foundation, nightmares chewing through the drywall. Then I heard it. A voice, low, male, croaky, from the hallway. He's standing in the light now. I jumped, nearly spilling my coffee. I thought someone was right behind me, but when I turned, no one. Just the hallway, and one light on. Right in front of room 206. I grabbed my phone, opened the photo I took earlier. The timestamp said 6:43 p.m. The door had been sealed. I walked down the hallway, heart hammering in my throat, and found the door open. Again, the doorstop, gone. Not kicked aside, just gone. Inside, the room was colder than the hallway. Not a breeze, not drafty. It was like walking into a freezer. My breath fogged up. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to see anything. Shadows swam over the far wall, just the light from the hallway casting through the open door. But the shape of the shadow didn't match the frame. It was too tall, too thin, too still. I stepped back, fast. As I did, I heard something from one of the rooms down the hall. Laughter, soft, raspy. I turned and saw a door slowly closing. Room 209. No one was scheduled there. I reached it in 4 steps and peeked in. Mrs. Alvarez was standing next to her bed, eyes shut, head tilted toward the ceiling. Her lips moved, but no sound came out now. And then she opened her eyes, stared straight into mine, and whispered, "You let him in." I swear my heart stopped. The light above her flickered. Her shadow stretched across the floor too long, too fast, like someone was pushing it from the ceiling. I backed out and nearly tripped. Then, from behind me, back toward room 206, I heard something that didn't make any sense. "Thank you," spoken like a sigh, a murmur, like someone who'd waited a long time. When I turned, the light in front of 206 went dark. All at once, the rest of the hallway lights turned off. Too like a wave. Pitch black. I didn't even remember running. Just the sound of my own footsteps and the caffeine screaming in my blood. Back at the nurse's station, the emergency light flickered on. Red, pulsing. My breath came in ragged bursts, and I felt like something was still following me. Not footsteps, just pressure. The weight of being watched. My phone buzzed. A new photo. But I hadn't taken one. It was room 206. Door open. Inside, the shape was clearer now, and I could see its eyes. I didn't sleep the next morning. Not really. I got home, locked the door behind me like someone was chasing me, not someone. Something Ann sat on my couch in the clothes I wore to work. Coffee still on my breath. That phantom chill still clinging to my skin. I stared at the photo on my phone for over an hour. It had no right to be there. I didn't take it. Didn't even unlock my phone after bolting from that hallway. There it was. Room 206. Blurry, like something had moved just as the shot was taken. And in the blur, a shape darker than shadow, taller than the doorframe. And those eyes, not glowing, not shining, just there, wide. Pale, like something caught mid-blink that never blinked again. I tried reverse image, searching it. Nothing. I checked the photo in phono timestamp. No location data. Just blank metadata, like it had never come from a phone at all. I should have called out that night. Should have claimed I was sick, had a fever, got abducted by raccoons, anything. But I didn't. I clocked in. Like a coward with too much curiosity and not enough self-preservation. Back in the East Wing again. Of course. The first hour was uneventful. I kept telling myself, maybe I did take the photo. Maybe I hit the button by accident while running. Maybe it's just some kind of compression glitch. Pixels playing tricks. I told myself a lot of things. I even believed a few, until 12:07 a.m. That was when I heard the knock. 3 slow raps, hollow, not from a door, from a wall. I looked up from my charting tablet, listening hard. Sometimes the pipes knock. Sometimes you hear a patient bump their bed against the wall. But this wasn't that. This came from the nurse's station wall, the one that backs into the linen closet. Again 3 knocks. I stood up, heart ticking faster. Opened the supply room. Nothing inside. Neatly stacked towels, latex gloves. No raccoons, haunted or otherwise. I closed the door. 3 knocks. Again, this time from the floor. I took 2 steps back and whispered, "Okay, screw this." I walked away, tried to distract myself. Room 210 needed their oxygen tank, checked. Routine stuff. Keep busy. That's what they always tell you in horror movies, right? Keep your mind on something normal. Except normal was getting harder to come by. When I opened the door to 210, the patient Mr. Keller was sitting upright in bed, which wouldn't have been alarming. If Mr. Keller hadn't been fully paralyzed from the neck down for the past 5 years. I froze. His eyes were open, unblinking, mouth slack like a puppet left mid-sentence. I backed out and hit the hallway call button for a second opinion. No way I was imagining that. When help came and the room was checked, he was lying down again, exactly like the chart said he should be, still as stone. No one believed me. "Maybe you saw a reflection," the other nurse said. Her tone, the verbal equivalent of a pat on the head. Yeah, a reflection. A fully paralyzed man sitting up. Great. Cool. I went back to the station, checked the monitors. One of the hallway cams was glitching, of course. It was the one pointed directly at room 26, black screen, no feed. And just as I leaned closer, trying to adjust it, the intercom crackled. Again, this time, a whisper. "I see you now." My skin broke out in goosebumps. That voice wasn't on any staff list. I checked the intercom log, nothing recorded, like no one had pressed the mic. Then I heard movement, not footsteps, more like dragging, like something was being pulled across tile, slowly, wetly. I stood up, grabbed the flashlight, and made the mistake of walking toward it. The sound led me back to ward room 206. Of course it did. The light was already on. Flickering like a dying bulb in a horror movie, someone forgot to edit properly. The door? Open. Inside, the air felt heavier again. Thick, like I was walking through water. My ears popped. I reached the threshold, and this is where I knew I was losing its high-heard music. Old music. Scratchy. Something like a waltz or a ballroom dance from the 1930s. It wasn't loud. It's just there, playing softly from the air itself. I stepped in. There was nothing inside. No furniture, no speakers, no gramophone. But on the wall, just above the windowsill, was something new. A smear. Long and jagged, reddish-brown, like a hand had scraped down it. Fingernail trails. Dried blood, maybe. Or rust. And underneath it, scrawled with a finger. "You open the door." I turned to run. And standing just outside the doorway, not in the hall, but right in the threshold, was Mr. Hartman. Eyes glassy, grinning. He whispered, "He's behind you." I didn't look. I couldn't. I couldn't make my neck turn. I shoved past him, ran straight back to the nurse's station, and locked myself in the med room. I stayed there until sunrise. No calls, no buzzers. Not even the lights flickered. Everything was too still, like the building was holding its breath. When the day staff arrived and opened the door, I was curled up behind the filing cabinet. They laughed. Thought I'd passed out from working too many doubles. I told them I was fine. But that night, someone else started talking through the intercom. And it wasn't anyone I worked with. I told myself I wouldn't go back. That morning, I got in my car, drove 3 blocks, parked in a grocery store lot, and stared at the steering wheel for 20 minutes. I tried typing out a resignation email on my phone, got as far as "Dear Management, I'm writing to inform you that," before deleting the whole thing. I didn't know why I couldn't finish it. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear that leaving meant whatever this was, at one. Or maybe it was something simpler, something dumber. Curiosity. Like if I left, I'd never get answers. I'd always wonder, and wondering can be worse than knowing. So, yeah, I came back the next night. I clocked in at 10:58 p.m. The moment I stepped through the front entrance, the place felt different, heavier. Like the air had been waiting for me. I told myself, this time I'm staying in the well-lit parts. No wandering. No room 206. Just do your job. Keep your head down. That plan lasted about 17 minutes. Because at exactly 11:15 p.m., the intercom crackled again. This time, it didn't whisper. It moaned. A long, slow, guttural sound, wet and trembling, like someone trying to speak through blood. I backed away from the speaker panel. "Not tonight," I muttered. The sound stopped, replaced by a low, rasping laugh. That laugh didn't come through the speaker. It came from behind me. I spun around. No one there. Just the hallway stretching off into dim yellow light, and the flickering emergency bulb over room 206 again. That stupid light. Always flickering, like it's winking at me. I returned to the station, hands shaking too much to hold my coffee steady. The first call of the night came from room 204, Mrs. Penor. Sweet old lady, loves cardinals, hates technology. She called, saying she needed help going to the bathroom. Routine, easy. Except when I got there, she wasn't alone. I opened the door and found her sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at the empty rocking chair in the corner. The chair was moving, back and forth, creaking softly, as if someone had just gotten up and left the room a second before I came in. I hesitated at the doorway. Mrs. Penner turned her head toward me without moving her eyes from the chair. "You just missed him," she said. I swallowed. "Who?" She smiled. "The man who stands too straight." I didn't respond. Just helped her up, walked her to the bathroom, and tried not to glance at the chair again. The moment she was back in bed, the creaking stopped, like he'd finally left or sat back down. I returned to the hallway and that's when I saw it. Wet footprints, bare, human, leading from room 204 down the corridor toward the east wing. They weren't there before. I followed them. Slowly, each print shimmered under the fluorescent light's thin puddles, like someone had come in from a storm. Only problem was, it hadn't rained in 4 days. The prints stopped just outside room 206. Of course, I stood there, listening. Silence, then click. The light inside the room came on. I didn't turn the knob. I didn't need to. The door slowly creaked open on its own. Just a crack. A whisper slipped through. "Why'd you leave me outside?" That voice wasn't angry. It was hurt. That made it worse. I stepped back, closed my eyes, and counted to 10. When I opened them, the door was shut again. Lights off. Just a hallucination. Right? Right. At the nurse's station, I found a note taped to my computer monitor. Just a yellow sticky note. Nothing unusual, except I didn't write it, and neither did anyone on staff. It read, "He remembers your name now." I tore it off and threw it in the trash. Checked the security cams, nothing new. No one seen entering my area. No one seen leaving room 206. But the camera over room 204 now showed the rocking chair, still moving, faster than before. And in one frame, just one, there was a blur in the seat. A figure, pale hands on the armrests. I rewound the footage. Frame by frame. The blur never stayed long enough to be seen clearly, but it was there. Again, and again, and again. I printed out one still and shoved it in my pocket. Later, I would try to forget I had it, but I couldn't throw it away. Because in the next hour, 3 more residents mentioned him. Mr. Hartman asked me, "Is he mad at you too?" Mrs. Alvarez whispered, "You brought him with you, didn't you?" And a Nuwana patient I'd never met. Recently transferred from another facility, grabbed my wrist and begged me not to go near the East Wing. He didn't blink once during the entire conversation. As I helped him back to bed, he looked at me and said, "He told me your name. He said it's soft, easy to carve." I didn't reply. Couldn't, because I could feel it again. The pressure, the weight. Like someone was standing just outside my field of vision, waiting for me to turn my head. I didn't turn, but in the corner of my eye, I saw the hallway light flicker once more. 3 times, then go out. There's something about silence that's worse than any scream. Real silence. The kind that presses in where even the air seems to be holding its breath. No buzz from the lights, no ticking clock, no soft whir from the vending machine in the break room. Just the kind of silence you don't hear. You feel in your chest, your jaw, behind your eyes. That's what greeted me when the hallway light blinked out. I was standing just a few steps from the nurse's station, frozen. I didn't know whether to go forward, go back, or just lie down and pretend I'd never existed in the first place. Then came the dragging. Not footsteps, not shuffling, dragging. Something being pulled across the tile in long, wet strokes. The sound was coming from the east wing again, and this time it wasn't trying to be subtle. I turned, flashlight in hand, and called out, "Hello." Nothing. I took a step forward. The tiles beneath my shoes felt warm. Warmer than they should have been, as if someone had left an electric blanket running under the floor. And then the smell hit me. Sweet, sickeningly sweet. Like flowers left too long in a hospital room. Mixed with bleach and something else. Decay. I reached the hallway intersection and flicked the light switch manually. Nothing happened. Figures, the dragging sound stopped just outside room 206. Of course it did. The door was closed, but the light under it, flickering like a candle, fighting to stay alive. I stood there, barely breathing, and then 3 knocks. From inside the room, not hesitant, not rushed, just patient. I lifted my hand to the handle. I don't know why. My brain was screaming not to, but something about the rhythm of those knocks was familiar, like an old song you hear once and recognize forever. I turned the knob slowly. The door opened by itself again. Inside, the room was still empty. Same bare bed. Same broken wall socket in the corner. Same long vertical smear across the far wall. But something was different this time. There was a chair in the corner. Not a hospital chair, not standard issue. It was wooden, ornate, antique, looked like it belonged in a Victorian funeral home. And in its sitting like he'd been waiting hours was a man, thin, pale, wearing what looked like an orderly's uniform from a different century. His hands rested on the armrests, long fingers curled like claws, head bowed, face hidden beneath greasy black hair that hung over his forehead. He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I stood there for what felt like hours. Then, slowly, his head began to lift. And I swear the light in the room got darker as he looked up at me. No eyelids, it's just pale, glassy orbs, like fogged-over marbles. His mouth opened, no teeth, just dark space. Like his mouth wasn't a mouth, but a hole in the world. And he whispered, "You see me now." I stumbled backward, tripped over the threshold, and fell into the hallway. When I scrambled to my feet, the door had shut again. Not slammed, just clicked. I ran. Didn't stop until I got back to the medroom and locked myself in. Sat on the floor, panting. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even hold the flashlight. I didn't move for 20 minutes. When I finally stood up and checked my pockets, that still frame photo I printed earlier it was gone. In its place, a yellow sticky note, same handwriting as the one before. But this one said, "He sat in that chair for years, waiting." I dropped it like it burned me. The silence came back. But this time it had texture like something breathing underneath it. I turned on every light I could find. The medroom, the hallway, even the break room fridge. Didn't care if I tripped the circuits. I was done playing polite. But just before the end of shift, just before the sun would have crested the horizon, the building made one final move. The fire alarm went off. Screaming, shrieking, flashing red lights. I ran through the halls, checking each room. Every resident was still in bed. Unbothered, peaceful, too peaceful. I found Mrs. Penor sitting up again, her eyes locked on the ceiling. She whispered to no one, "He's coming through the cracks." "What cracks?" I asked, but she didn't answer. And when I looked up, there were cracks in the ceiling. Hairline splits, I swear, hadn't been there before. From them, something dripped, clear, like water. But it hissed when it hit the tile. I left, clocked out without speaking to anyone. Outside, the world felt too bright, too normal. The birds were singing. The grass looked too green. Like a movie set designed to trick me into feeling safe. But I knew. Whatever was in there, whatever I'd seen, it wasn't finished. That night, when I got home, I found another sticky note on my bathroom mirror. I hadn't brought any with me. I hadn't told anyone. It read, "Tell them what you saw, or I will." I didn't sleep that day, not even close. I lay on the couch with every light in the apartment on, wrapped in 2 blankets like they could stop whatever was clawing around in my head. My phone buzzed a few times, friends, work, bills. I didn't answer. What would I say? Hey, yeah, things are cool. I'm being followed by a man only old people can see. He lives in a locked room that keeps opening itself. And he leaves me notes like we're pen pals from hell. Right around noon, I must have dozed off. I woke up to the tap, tap, tap on the window above my couch. 3 knocks. Not from the hallway. Not a dream. My apartment. I live on the 3rd floor. The blinds were drawn, but I could see the outline of fingers behind them. Not a full hand. Just the tips. Like someone tall was resting their hand against the glass, casually waiting. I didn't open it. I just sat there, holding my breath until the shape disappeared. After that, I knew I had 2 choices. Quit, move, burn everything I own, and live under a bridge. Or go back, and that's the thing. You'd think the choice would be obvious. That the only sane response to any of this would be to run. But that's the problem. Whatever this thing wasn't just haunting the nursing home. It was attached to me, following me, talking to them about me. If I didn't face it, it would crawl into my life forever, into my dreams, into my bones. So I went back. Shift started at 11 p.m. I walked in 5 minutes early. The desk was quiet. No new staff, no notes, no alarms. For a second, I almost thought it was over. Then I saw the screens. The security feed, room 206, was gone. I mean, it wasn't blacked out. It wasn't glitched. It was just missing. The feed skipped from 205 to 207, like the room had never existed. I clicked through every view, every angle. Nothing, just a gap. I even checked the floor plan posted on the wall. Same thing. Room 206 had been erased, but I remembered it. I could still see that chair, that smear on the wall, that face. I walked the hallway myself, and there it was. Still there, still real. The door still closed. But the number plate was gone. Not scratched off, not vandalized. Just gone. Like someone peeled it off without touching it. I reached out, fingertips brushing the handle. And behind me, someone said, "Don't." I turned. It was Mrs. Alvarez. She wasn't in her room. She was just standing there in the hallway, barefoot, in her gown, her hands trembling like leaves in wind. She said, "He gets stronger when you open the door." "How do you know?" I asked. She looked at me like I was slow, because I used to work here. That stopped me. "I was a nurse," she said, voice quieter. "A long time ago, before the new management, before the rebranding, before they turned it into a place people die in instead of live at." I didn't speak. She kept going, eyes locked on the door like it might breathe. Room 206 was closed after a man hanged himself there. A patient? No. A worker? Young guy. Night shift. People said he started talking to shadows. Said the mirrors stopped reflecting him. Said he wasn't alone in his skin anymore. I swallowed. What was his name? She didn't answer that. She just whispered. He said it always starts with the chair. And then she turned and walked back to her room as if none of this mattered. I looked back at the door. Still shut. Still wrong. When I finally turned away and walked back to the nurse's station, the hallway lights flickered again. 1, 2, 3. Then total darkness. Every bulb snuffed out like someone exhaled too hard. I heard a chair creak behind me, not from a room, from the hallway. I turned slowly. There he was, the man from the chair, standing, tall, too tall. His back arched like he'd spent years hunched and forgot how to straighten. His uniform hung from him like damp cloth. His head twitched slightly. Then he pointed, not at me, at the security room. And when he opened his mouth again, that endless mouth, that hole in the shape of a face, he whispered, "Come see what I've been saving for you." And then he was gone. Just blinked out like static. I didn't think. I ran to the security room, slammed the door, locked it. The monitors were on, every hallway, every room, and in every single single one he was there. In different poses, sometimes sitting in a chair beside a sleeping patient, sometimes standing behind a nurse, sometimes in the corner of a room where no one was looking. 15 screens, 15 appearances, 15 pairs of eyes staring directly into the camera. And on the wall behind, meeked into the paint with something sharp were the words, "You brought him in."